Welcome back to Coached Unplugged, where the silence ends. I am the host, Uncle Chris, and on this channel, we talk about the real stories of those who have been harmed, the stories that have been forgotten, those who have been hurt and harmed by hazing. As a survivor of hazing myself, I know the weight of how this tragedy affects not only the victim who faces it head on, but also the families who are left behind by the victim. So we use this space as a moment of reflection, a moment of a place of peace, and allowing those to grieve, remembering the stories who have been no longer in the headline, no longer in the stories. We use this channel as a space to honor every victim with love and light. So if you're the family or the friend of the decedent that I'm going to be talking about tonight, do know I do it with love, I do it with respect and empathy. So I hope that resonates. I also want to say that we're going to be featuring a parent soon. So this parent is Eric Oakes, who's going to be speaking about his son, his story, Adam Oakes. I talked about his story in one of my first videos when I rebranded Culture Unplugged from a mentorship channel to talk about exclusively hazing. So I'm honored to have him be a part of a live discussion. This will be on October the 12th. It's a Sunday at 6 p.m. I look forward to having that conversation with Eric. But tonight is really important. Jordan Hankins' story is really important, and many others' stories. And so we're talking about over 105 stories of those who have been harmed by hazing since the year 2000, and there's many more to cover even before then. So if you'd like to share your story, please don't hesitate to email me at coveredandcultured@gmail.com. I'd love to walk that process with you with care and grace, giving you the space to share what happened. We're going to speak anonymously about what you experienced with hazing. I'd love to be able to share your story and help you tell your story. I've shared mine. I've also included my mother's experience as well. So this is a place of full respect. So also the contents of what I'm going to be discussing, you might hear me say the word self-side. I think you understand what that means when I say self-side. So if you're experiencing any type of mental anguish or pain, depression, you want someone to talk to in regards to this topic, please, I encourage you to dial 988 for your protection and safety. This is a place where we rebuke any form of self-harm, and we give love and light to those who have passed on due to that. So we will begin to tell this story here. So don't go anywhere. This is where the silence ends. Okay, so before we begin to tell the story, go ahead and like and subscribe if you're new to this channel. We hope that you will stick around with us as we drop many more videos, and I want to make sure you don't miss any video that I decide to drop. If you're a returning member, thank you for your continued support. So let's tell the story. So we're going to be talking about a young woman whose story doesn't fit the hazing stereotypes most people think of. When we hear the word hazing, we often picture the paddles, the alcohol of overconsumption, the brutal beatdowns, or the dangerous stunts that you might see for the fun and games. But sometimes the most dangerous form of hazing isn't physical at all. It's invisible. It's the kind you can't see on the surface, but it can crush your spirit, wear down on your mind, and steal away your will to keep going. So this is the story of Jordan Hankins, a 19-year-old basketball player at Northwestern University. Smart, driven, loved, with a future ahead of her. And yet in 2017, Jordan was found dead in her dorm room. A self-side, tied not to a bottle, not to bruises, but to the overwhelming weight of psychological hazing. If you care about protecting students, if you care about ending hazing in all its forms, let me remind you to hit that subscribe button, join this community where the stories that the schools bury are brought to light, and where families and survivors are finally heard. So let's talk about who Jordan Hankins was. Jordan was a sophomore at Northwestern majoring in journalism. She was a talented guard on the Wildcats women's basketball team. Coaches described her as a hardworking and full of promise. Teammates loved her energy and her smile. She was 19 years old. 19. That's someone's daughter. That's someone's friend. That's someone who should be still alive today. So I want you to all to picture that. A young woman who had already achieved so much in life, standing on the edge of even greater things, and yet Hazing cut her life short. Jordan wanted sisterhood. Like many students, she saw joining Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated as a chance to belong, to be a part of a legacy. But pledging isn't always easy, and it's not what's always advertised either. Behind closed doors, Jordan was allegedly subjected to secrecy, intimidation, and relentless pressure. Court filings and her family's lawsuit claim that Jordan endured a high-stress, emotionally abusive pledging process. It wasn't paddles or the parties, it was manipulation, psychological tactics, expectations that weighed heavily on her mental health. And let's be honest, sometimes the invisible scars are worse than the visible ones. It's not always surface level. Sometimes it's much darker than that. We talked about a similar case before I continue, who basically endured significant psychological stress and had already pledged and then initiated into the organization of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. Her name was Lamori, and you may have remembered her story. If not, her video is that I had a discussion with her mother, Miss Scramble, was very significant. YouTube had to put a flag on it just because of the contents and the nature of the conversation was very hard to listen to. And it was one of my first early on parent interviews, but it was one that I think still resonates with me today. And Miss Scramble is still fighting for justice for her daughter. So we give love and light and peace to her. So again, it's not something you see on the surface. Sometimes it's something much darker and much deeper than that. A person may appear like everything's okay, like there's all smiles, but inside they may be breaking, and there are signs to really watch out for. But pay attention as we continue this story. So you can't heal these type of bruises, type of harm in that way. But this kind of stress, this fear and stimulation that eats away at your sense of worth, self-worth, that can break even the strongest among us. So in January of 2017, Jordan was found in her dorm room. She had died by self-suicide. The report said she left behind a note that revealed just how much the pledging process weighed on her. Now, sources had mentioned that in this letter, she described indescribable amount of pain, of what happened, the events that led to her making this decision, and it just was too much, rather severe enough for her to take this next step. And I just want to pause there for a moment, because too often when someone dies by this act, people rush to say that's just mental illness. But you have to understand that context matters here. Hazing created the pressure. Hazing created the fear. Hazing created the environment where Jordan felt trapped. So when we talk about hazing, don't limit it to the beer funnels or the bruises from paddle or punched or kicked. Hazing is also the psychological pressure that can push someone over the edge. It's also this act that keeps you isolated. The requirements in a lot of organizations when you're going through hazing is you can't be seen on campus. What I mean is you have to be as invisible as possible. You can't be noticed by anyone. You have to take the back alley to get to where you need to get to. You can't just be, among people generally, like where people would socialize and hang out. Like you have to be as innocent, because this is fear that, well, if someone who is a member of the organization catches you and sees you, who knows that you're on a process to join that organization, then that means it's gonna be a significant harm, not only to you, but to anyone else who's attempting to join with you. And that's as significant as the weight of balancing regular college life. Not No one should be able to should be endured, I should say, to that type of stress already. And she's a basketball player as well. That I know I can't even just understand mentally how she could balance that. And tragically, this is where it led. So let me just continue here. So after her death, Jordan's mother filed a lawsuit against Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. The case argued that the hazing Jordan endured was a direct factor in her self-side. The family alleged that the pressure, the secrecy, and the emotional distress tied to the pledging process led to this tragedy. Of course, the organization denied responsibility. So that's the pattern we see over and over. Protect the letters, protect the image. Meanwhile, the families unfortunately have to bury their children. It's reported also and allegedly that the organization had requested for any materials that she had, any type of paraphernalia related to Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, to be returned. So how much of a slap in the face is that, to know that your daughter just died? And this isn't exclusive only to what I've heard with Alpha Kappa Alpha. I've heard this from in regards to cases regards to Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. I've heard the same thing for Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. This is a reoccurring thing where I've heard this theme of, hey, well, this person wasn't truly a member. We need any and all materials to be returned back. But that's a slap in the face for the parents, as in, where's the humility? Where's the humility? Where's the compassion? Where's the care for my child who is trying to join your organization? That in the grand scheme of everything that's already going on, the grief that I'm just realizing that I'm dealing with, and this is what's happening, I find that to be odd. Okay, so of course the organization denied responsibility. That's the pattern that we see over and over, is the cover up, protecting the letters, protecting the image. And that lawsuit, didn't just seek justice for Jordan. It forced the conversation. What counts as hazing? Is it only physical harm, the paddles, the punches, the bruises, or do we finally admit that the psychological hazing itself kills too? So this is where Jordan's story becomes so important, because hazing isn't always obvious. Students might not show the bruises. They may not smell like alcohol, but they could be carrying the weight of secrecy, humiliation, isolation, or relentless emotional manipulation. Jordan's story forces us to confront that truth, and it forces parents, schools, and organizations to ask, are we only looking for the physical signs while ignoring this very obvious but a hidden aspect of this process? And that's the emotional toll. Because if we are, then we're failing. Jordan's family will never be the same. Her teammates, her coaches, her friends, they will always carry this loss. It's a memory that you don't forget. As a parent, family, those who loved and knew Jordan Hankins, what's indescribable as far as what happened with her is that they have to go on living. Every time that his graduation time comes up and they're at a restaurant, they notice that there are students who are in their cap and gowns. That was robbed of them. Christmas, holidays, birthdays. I don't have to remind you all what grief looks like when someone loses their life, when someone is no longer around. But it's a pain that will always be remembered, and nothing can comfort that. It's a grief that you just have to live with. It's a void that you just can't quite fill. And as a survivor of hazing myself, it's a piece of myself that I felt was destroyed. What's scary is that there was this point in my life where I wanted it to end. I wanted it I wanted myself to feel loved, and I didn't know what that felt like when I was going through that process of hazing. And the deep scars, the deep bruises, that's emotionally, it took forever. I felt like, even 15 years for me to, or 14 years to say, for me to first tell my story, to say, hey, this is what happened to me. And then 15 years when I said, hey, you know what? This is time for me to help save young people, help save, so there won't be another Jordan Hankins story. So there wouldn't be another story like mine and have young people suffer. So again, they carry that loss. And that's the thing, again, it's not where hazing doesn't just take the life of just one student. It devastates the entire family and the community. Her mother's courage to pursue legal action was more than just the justice itself. It was about shining a light so that no other parent has to get that phone call. I remember talking about Pam, the mother of Robert Champion, and her describing how she got that phone call that her son had died from FAMU on the marching band, and she was doing her hair. I was watching the documentary Hazing, but she was doing her hair on a Saturday night. She doesn't even do her hair anymore at the same time. That's how much of grief and it has shook and took from her. It robbed her and it broke her into that, changing her normal aspect of life. So yeah, no lawsuit, no dollar amount can ever make this right. Jordan's life was priceless. Her name was Jordan Hankins. She should still be here, playing basketball, finishing college, building her future. Instead, we're left with a story that reminds us hazing kills in ways that aren't always visible. So tonight, I leave you with this. To students, if you're in a pledging process that's hurting you mentally or physically, speak up, walk away. Your life is worth more than any set of letters. To parents, ask your kids the hard questions. Don't assume hazing only leaves the bruises. Sometimes it leaves the invisible scars. To organizations, if you claim sisterhood or brotherhood, then honor that. Protect your members. Don't destroy them, even your prospective ones. Their lives matter. They should feel encouraged to be a part of your organization. But they should also know that their lives are in good hands. If you believe hazing must end, subscribe to Culture Unplugged. Share this video. Keep Jordan's story alive, because hazing thrives in silence. And here, that silence ends. It ends with us. I want to thank you for watching Culture Unplugged, this episode. Love and light to the family of those who knew Jordan Hankins. Please stick around for more videos, as my focus right now is to drop at least one video every week. Different varying topics around the subject between organizations. We bring on guests here who are part of the coalition that includes hazinginfo.org, stophazing.org as well. We're in collaboration with both of those nonprofit organizations. So we collaborate to create more content that helps protect and save young people, help save lives. So thank you so much for being a part of this conversation. We hope to see you soon. This is where silence ends.